we'll be having Lauren Sivan call. Well, we'll be calling her, I would say, at around 11:20, 11:30, to talk about, I don't know, whatever's on her mind. What do you think she's been doing the last 2 weeks?
Probably dealing with a lot of media.
It was, yeah, she has been doing that. I mean, we'll get into it a little bit with her, but I've had a lot of weird phone calls this week, but on Wednesday, Yashar Ali from Huffington Post called me asking for Lauren's number because I guess he said, oh, I thought I had it, but I didn't. And of course, because I'm such an investigative reporter, I didn't even ask him why. I was with, I think it was just like gabbing with my roommate. I was like, never even occurred to me to be like, that's peculiar. Why would you want her number? And then 48 hours, we have what we have with Mr. Weinstein.
This, well, I think was significant for a couple of reasons beyond just Lauren. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is kind of mind-blowing. But this was, I think this was the first post-original New York Times story of someone else happening to. So that was important. That sort of paved the way for, I mean, I know the New Yorker, Ronan Farrow, they've been working on it for a while too, but it's the first, like, it's not just this one big story. We're going to have more.
Right.
And then she was a journalist in this time. So if he's jacking it into a potted plant in front of a journalist, imagine how reckless he and just like drunk with his own power he is. A journalist. Yes. I am going to take my penis out. I'm going to work it into a plant in front of a journalist.
It never gets old. Yes, but actually, that is such a good point. You know, shockingly, we've been doing a lot of Weinstein talking the last couple of days. It's like, it reminds me of when the Anthony Weiner thing came out with Red Eye. It was just like, well, there's no other stories. We're just doing this for an hour. But Weinstein's been a little bit like that, although I wonder in the flyover states if they even care or know who he is.
Of course
but it still involves finishing on a plant. We could all condemn that. But you're right, a journalist. Like, Sam, how have you experienced anything like this?
Oh my God.
Like when you're 21 years old at Stuffed Magazine, for example.
No. I can talk to at least one girl a day who's like been in a subway and masturbating.
I've definitely been in this situation, unfortunately, and it has been with someone famous. And obviously, I'm not going to talk about it right now because that's not what we're talking about.
I'm assuming you don't want to name names.
No.
And I'm assuming it, like, I mean, we like to have fun at Mr. Weinstein's expense, but this is pretty horrible.
I mean, I think that you're making a very good point. I mean, he was so unabashed. Unabashed?
Yeah.
Is it weird? I don't know.
My ears are bleeding from the high pitch after the word, but yeah.
I mean, he just did not give a shit about who he was jerking off in front of. Like, not only that, I mean, you have to ask the question, how did people who knew about this not talk about it, and how is it so widely accepted? I mean, his wife didn't know? Like, I mean...
part of the payoff was that they bought her dresses because she's a fashion designer. And so whenever an it girl would cycle through, right, there'd be like an it girl that no one had ever heard of and on all magazine covers for 6 months in 2009. And then suddenly it girl would go away before ever doing anything that made her an it, like in terms of work. And then the next time you would see the it girl, she'd be on the red carpet with a dress from the wife.
But
True facts.
To further that, I mean, I think the most frightening thing, there's so many things that bother me about this. Obviously, just as another person, as a woman. But one of them,
one offensive thing.
I mean, whenever the original article came out, Asia Argentina, I believe was the name of the first woman who came out.
I believe so, yes.
And then Rose McGowan, both people who you're like, oh, I know her. What happened to her?
Yeah. Yes.
And now it's like, that's what happened to her? How disturbing.
Yeah.
How upsetting and disturbing and just so shocking. Like, people joke about the casting couch. You know, insiders always allude to it. But actually finding out that these people's careers that they worked their whole lives towards were ruined by the simple fact that they didn't want to watch him jerk off again, or he became tired of having sex with them, like whatever it was, that is just so disturbing.
Like, that's the thing that we kind of touched on it yesterday. You know, you've got people like Meryl Streep claiming ignorance.
Yeah.
It's just like, I am the last thing from a Hollywood insider. But
Right.
before I even met Lauren Sivan, I would hear stories about Harvey Weinstein. If
Well,
you have
That being
ears,
said,
Lauren has a mouth too, so
Right.
so that goes into your ears. It's helpful. I mean, you worked at Fox for a long time. I worked in the Fox building as well. As a matter of fact, if we're complaining about our relationship with the certain place, they had the 10-year anniversary party for Fox Business Network yesterday. I know because lots of friends of mine were like, "Oh, it's so great to be here."
interesting.
I was a co-host of a television program there that won in demo about 50% of the goddamn time.
It was the one great show on that network, and wow. All right, continue. I always
there's
like sour
that.
grapes.
Not invited. But anyways, even I mean, I
Would have been bad crowd service.
I am friendly with the makeup and hair professionals and other people like that, but I'm not an incurable gossip. And all of from the Ale story, O'Reilly, you kind of assumed that there would be some weirdness because of the loofah and other stuff. But when the Ale story first came, I thought to myself, plausible because he's an old creepy guy, you know, who came of age in the 60s and 70s. And as we know, all men were rapists back then.
It was the me decade, but the lesser known slogan was the rape decade. I don't know if you're aware.
But I hadn't heard this, right? Like, I mean, a lot of people come afterwards and say, "Oh, yeah, everybody knew it was a big open secret." This kind of stuff. But I didn't know, and I talked to other ladies there, and they didn't know either, and found themselves a little bit shocked and surprised.
So
That's a good point.
In fairness, it can be said that these people have the amount of dichotomy to be able to present a positive face to some people and a shitty face to others, right?
Right, yeah.
I mean, I think that's
MO.
totally. I think that's totally believable. I think that you hear gossip about people and you don't want to believe it either because it doesn't serve your greater purpose or because it could not be true. It could be bullshit.
Completely,
because
yeah.
people just like to talk, and that's fair, and that happens all the time. However, you'd have to assume that another man in a room with Harvey Weinstein, this conversation kind of goes there. So I think the biggest problem right now is a lot of men aren't coming out as much as women to say that they knew, that they're willing to sever their relationship with Harvey Weinstein and his projects. And I think that that's a big deal right now, is whether or not, and not that it will make the argument stronger because a man is standing behind it, but stand up.
I want to hear more from the people who
agree, yeah.
who actually were helpmates. I mean, employees of his were setting up these
Exactly.
meetings. The MO was
assistants.
is to grab the female assistant so that the hot 22-year-old next to it girl feels safe about coming to a meeting, and then whoop, the assistant leaves and it's bathrobe time. Right? So there was an infrastructure that enabled that. A lot of people over a period of 2 decades played that role. I want to hear from them.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. I mean,
is this
there's
implicating
culpability, there's enabling.
I mean, he put them in a monstrous position. And,
Yeah.
and like with everybody, you could say, should Gwyneth Paltrow have said something when she was 22 years old? Gwyneth Paltrow, who, was not just a star on the rise, but daughter of Bruce Paltrow.
You're kidding.
Was the girlfriend
Hollywood royalty?
girlfriend of Brad Pitt at the time, right? Like it could have been a difference changer, but I think that we put too much onus on people who were placed in that position. Still, that said, there's so many people, including I'm sure at the Weinstein Company board, they had to have known at least about some of the settlements. I don't believe that they didn't. So there was an infrastructure of people who were at the very least willing to look away. We've seen the Seth MacFarlane joke, the 30 Rock joke. Did you see that as well?
I did not. No.
There was a joke. I forget the name of the gal, the sort of blonde, daffy actress gal there, where she's saying to Tracy Morgan, I have ethics. I only slept with. I turned down Harvey Weinstein 3 out of 5 times. This kind of stuff.
See,
So, like there was some reference, surely, that people know.
And the weird ego on him is because he's such a powerful person in Hollywood that no one would want to touch that on a serious way, but for that would stroke his ego. Harvey Weinstein would say that and be like,
that was my name.
Yeah, that was my name. It comes off as a joke. If anything, I'm going to use that in a line when I'm hitting off a woman and then paying her off in a dress.
I'm trying to think of who is more physically repulsive between Harvey Weinstein and Roger Ailes. I mean, when the Ailes thing came through, one of the things that I kept thinking about is like, wow, you were still like this in your 70s? Like,
I love you for bringing that up.
Don't take this the the wrong way, but I just don't expect to be nearly that horny, never that abusive, but never that nearly that horny when I'm in my 70s. I'm going to be taking a lot of naps.
I mean, first of all, I guess I can't afford the pharmaceuticals to perhaps change this, but I'm 42 and I can't picture it. Like to me, the thing I'm most sexually attracted to these days is a nap.
Same.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh my God.
Well, and you actually made a small human, so I don't.
Yeah, I have this long-standing conversation with my husband often. I'm like, sex or sleep? Sleep?
It's so depressing, but accurate.
Yeah, I mean, it's not.
Get
It
old enough,
doesn't win
you don't
every
even
time.
have to have the conversation.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just seems like so much effort. The drive to have to get these women in.
But that's
under
the
false
thing. Sorry to interrupt you, but
Please.
that's the thing. I think that's the biggest issue. He put no effort into it. To further your point, he had people doing it for him.
Yeah.
Ushering him into these relationships. I mean,
Friday night meeting time in the hotel.
yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, I work with a girl who was like, who would take a meeting in a hotel? I was like, it's Hollywood. Like, they do that all the time. It's not weird to accept a meeting at a hotel at Sundance when you don't have an office there. I mean, this is where some things just go down. So it wouldn't be strange. What's strange is that he was took so much advantage. I mean, it bothers me so much as a woman. It bothers me so much as somebody who has hoped for an advancement in her career and realized that it wouldn't go the way that I hoped if I didn't do certain things. I mean, it's so upsetting. And to hear Lauren talk about it, it was so heartbreaking to see someone who's so strong, such a cool girl who I would never fuck with. I would never be I would be like, that's a ballsy, cool girl. And for her,
I think she's a broad. I would cry.
I feel that I'm like that as well. And to see that she was in a situation that was so compromising, so degrading, just goes to show how little interest he had in the human woman, you know, and just he was just so objectifying
or botany.
So bothering.
And it's part of it. I mean, I think part of the classic reason why Hollywood's always going to have these kind of things is that there is a market in young, attractive women. That's kind of the nature of the thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
it's LA.
men and other people too. But the star-making machine is always going to be about 22-year-old women in Hollywood. How can you imagine it not be? And all the sort of sub-Hollywoods, the porn industry too, modeling, all these things, that is the thing. And so if you are a male in a relationship business, a powerful male in a relationship business where there's the dangle of fame and money at the end, and only 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 are ever going to get there, there is going to be this. It's awful. And I've been trying to think of, all right, what are the obvious industries where you're going to see this, right? It's got to be relationship business, fame, fortune, and some element of looks. TV news is an obvious of this, much more than like a newspaper job would be, or even a glossy magazine job would be. Politics, of course, is like this too, right? So you always see stuff like this in Washington.
Absolutely.
I presume Wall Street is like that. I don't know much about. I'm not an expert like you. I don't have my own financial newsletter.
I said thank you. Emerging markets mutual funds. By the way, the Asian markets, mwah,
yeah,
here for me. Yeah,
but a lot of that is relationship and power and dick swinging and this kind of stuff. And you can imagine that there's a pecking order that you get in. Academia, you don't really have the fame and fortune at the end of it, but you do have like college type fame, and a lot of creepy old dudes, and a lot of 21-year-old hot girls because they're 21.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you also just
they
have
like tweed
the
with the little patches.
specific.
Exactly.
I mean, it's anytime there's wielding of power, and someone can exploit that. You know, in any of these situations, and it's upsetting, it's disturbing, but it's also like, it's so gross. Like if I showed up to a date with Brad Pitt, who I find super attractive again, like he's made it into like the third.
He looks a little heroin-y now.
He looks terrible right now.
Right?
However,
Actually,
knowing that he was like, I'll handle this, Gwyneth. I'm gonna go talk to Harvey Weinstein. I'm like, oh, Brad, stop it. Just such a man.
You really thought this through. What's he wearing?
Yeah, I took notes.
Yeah.
Anyway, I lost my point.
The point was that you want to date Brad Pitt.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But
If I showed up to a date with Brad Pitt and he was like in a bathrobe, I know he did not ask me out.
See that.
And he just like started jerking off, I'd be like, oh, that's gross and creepy. Like even the most disgusting human being I can think of, Harvey Weinstein versus Brad Pitt, terrible behavior. I mean, it's just so across the board bad.
Well, and you know, you were talking about, or maybe I just dreamed it about, you wonder what his wiener looks like. I think I might have just dreamed it, but I remember when in the New York Magazine detailing some of Roger Ailes' badness, one of his victims. This is absolutely true. One of
the victims again. Okay, go on.
No, I'm not. Nope, not laughing at the victims. One of the victims of Roger Ailes described his phallus, to use the medical words, as raw hamburger meat.
Right.
So for anyone looking forward to lunch in about an hour, think about that before you go to the hamburger.
Well, actually, one of the things that I love that Lauren was able to get in there was she was like, I was really shocked at how quick it went. Like, I loved it. I was like, hell yeah, Lauren. And not only did he jerk off, but it took 10 seconds. Like, it was...
she was able to get that little jab in.
I don't know if it was like to her credit or to his discredit. I'm not sure which one it was, but they both worked, and I loved it.